So as the playoffs are going on, we're starting to see more and more positions fill pretty fast. And we kind of had two big shockers today. We'll quickly brief over the one. The Carolina Panthers, it looks like, is expected to hire Bucs offensive coordinator, if I get this right, Dave Canales, if I pronounce that last name right. But that's not more so. That's a shocker, too, because I thought they would go for a bigger name. But we're not going to be talking about the Panthers right now. We're going to be talking about the Atlanta Falcons. And this is going to be kind of diving into Belichick and why he didn't get the job, reasons why, not just for the Falcons, but so far just the lack of demand for him throughout the NFL. The bigger news was the Atlanta Falcons decided to hire Los Angeles Rams defensive coordinator Raheem Morris instead. It's very shocking because even mid to late in the season, it looked like when there was talks of it looks like Belichick's gonna be parting. The team Belichick's gonna be decided to part ways after this year. When people were trying to decide, is this real or not? As this was going on, it seemed like watch out for the Falcons. This could be a destination. This could be a team that are going to go out there and get him. Arthur Smith, there was reports saying that he was hell bent on getting him. He wanted to go after him. A big name, great coach, great resume. Why wouldn't he? And he had 2 interviews with the team, which most times than not, if you have multiple interviews, all signs point to you being the candidate to be selected. And a surprise move to some, but maybe it isn't for others, they go into, again, a different direction. They pick Rams defensive coordinator Raheem Morris. And again, what I said in the beginning, I want to take try and guess and try and give my analysis as to why Belichick did not get this job, not just for this, but for the rest of the NFL. Because if you look at, for Ian Rappaport, what he reported, says the Falcons were the only team to interview legendary coach Bill Belichick, and there are no known scheduled interviews. Potentially, Belichick could sit out a year and await his opportunity in 2025. Now, this is a little bit concerning, and we'll get to the 2025 part in a second. But just crazy when you look at the resume, that what he has: 6 Super Bowls, essentially a 20-year dynasty, 2 separate dynasties essentially, gone to 9 Super Bowls, countless AFC Championship games, countless division titles. Why isn't this guy in high demand? Wouldn't every team go out there and run to get Belichick? It's a surprise move, which I didn't even realize that for the second part, when I saw the Ian Rappaport, was no one else interviewed for Belichick. And it didn't even dawn on me until when I read it. I'm like, yeah, he's right. I don't recall any team reaching out for him except for Atlanta. It just seemed like Atlanta or bust. And now we know the Atlanta job is not there anymore. And there's only 2 spots left available for vacancies. And that is the Seattle Seahawks and the Washington Commanders. Of course, there's a chance for both of them. I see it's very unlikely for Belichick to go to Seattle because of Pete Carroll. Similar mindset of a coach up there in age as well, in their early 70s. It just seems like they wanted to move off of a long, older coach, old mindset. I think they want to get a younger, fresh idea in there, a new voice. I don't think Belichick is necessary for that. Would it surprise me if he went to Seattle? No, but I think it's very unlikely. I think the biggest likelihood, even before the offseason, was just the Washington Commanders. There was early reports that Belichick could go to Washington. It kind of died down, and more so the Atlanta reports started to really rise and take over the social media, at least in the sports media. But Commanders is a decent position, a decent likelihood that he could go there. New ownership, want to get a new direction, want to really clean up from what Dan Snyder did, what a horrible job he did for countless years being the owner. Wants to get established quarterback, or established, not quarterback, well, also a quarterback, but established coach, a name that everyone knows, and has a great resume, has a great background, great success, and that is Belichick. But at this point, it looks like, if I'm getting this right too, so I apologize if I get this wrong too, for Brad Johnson, the offense coordinator for the Lions, it looks like that's the likelihood, the direction they're going to. So this leaves really no options. It goes back to the 2025, is could he sit out a year? So this is my analysis, my belief as to why Belichick lost the opportunity with Atlanta, and not just that, no interest whatsoever in the NFL in general. I really pin it down to 3 things. The first one is age. I don't think teams want to, rely on a coach they know is a short-term process. And we know Atlanta likelihood, to me, for Belichick, he only has a few years left. 3-4 years max, in my opinion, if that. I don't think he can turn Atlanta around in that time frame, or at least get you a Super Bowl. I think it's unlikely. They have tons of great talent there, especially offensively, young, elite potential to be elite players at their positions. But I don't see that he can turn around that quickly, and I think that does hurt. That does hurt him a little bit. It's just his age right now. He's 71. He'll turn 72 in April. Again, just not many years left for a head coach. I mean, kind of looking here, there's other ones that he kind of banked on too. We were kind of seeing if Dallas was going to open up, never did. Chargers went with Harbaugh, and obviously with the Falcons, they chose a different direction. But again, I think it's more so the age. And if he waits, let's say we believe what the reports are, with he'll sit out to 2025, he'll be 73 by the time the next offseason comes around, if he even gets to that point. Now, he'll probably get higher, before that potentially, but going into next season, he'll be 73 years old. Again, just not a long shelf life left to really turn things around. He's really going to have to wait until a team like Dallas, if that's even an opportunity with Jerry Jones, or, I don't know, people might laugh, Buffalo, or the Eagles, or some of these teams that have an elite quarterback, a great quarterback, that is really going to push over the top. Because Belichick has done a great job with defenses. It's just the offense, post Tom Brady, after 2019, 2021, 2022, and this past year, 2023, or this season, just doesn't have the offense, doesn't have the quarterback, and it really showed. But again, for age, I think that did play a good factor. A lot of these teams want to follow the Sean McVay route, where they want to get a younger coach that's going to be there for a long time, mainly offensive minded, and that hurts Belichick. That he's kind of viewed as the old ways, the old age of coaching. The next one I think is record, and this is going to be, and this is without Brady. Now I'm adding his stint with the Browns and also with the Patriots. Now, mind you, for the Patriots one, I'm also adding 2008 as a year without Brady. Even though he was on the roster, he tore his ACL, I think, sometime in the first quarter. I think it was very early on. So essentially, he played the entire season without Brady with that one, and he had Matt Castle as his quarterback. So I'm going to count that year. I don't think a lot of people count that as a year without Brady, post Brady. But for this one, I'll count that one because he didn't have him for that 1 year. But if you add up all years in Cleveland, so that's 5 years with Cleveland and 6 years without Brady, including the 2008 season, if you want to count that. In total, he is 81 and 98. If you want to break that down, I have the records here to show you individually. The years, so Cleveland 6-10, 7-9, 7-9. He had one playoff berth with Cleveland, 11-5, and dropped to 5-11. His first year without Brady yet was 5-11, and then they take off. And we go back to 2008. This was the year of Matt Castle. Did not make the playoffs somehow, but it went 11-5. And then, of course, you see post Tom Brady after 2019, 2020, 7-9. 2021, rookie Mac Jones made it to the playoffs, 10-7. After that, 8-9. In this past season, 4-13. You see for Cleveland, he posted a 36-40 record with Cleveland. And then for New England, without Tom Brady in those seasons, he is 54-54. Again, grand total of 81 and 98. That is not good. And that's definitely something that I think teams are at least keeping an eye on, or at least thinking about. Even if it isn't the biggest thing, I think it's something. It may not be everything, but it's something. And I definitely, it does kind of make you look at Belichick and go, the argument of the debate between who should get more credit for the dynasties, Belichick or Brady. And I think what made it worse is when Brady went to the Tampa and won a Super Bowl, it kind of put the nail in the coffin saying, hey, he went out and won another Super Bowl without Bill Belichick. What did Bill Belichick do without Tom Brady? Post Tom Brady. So we're not going to count 2008 this time, or 2000. We're looking at after Tom Brady left in 2019. Nothing. Only one winning season. In the one game they made the playoffs, they got blown out by Buffalo 47-17. After that, again, 7-9, 8-9, and the worst one yet, 4-13. It was abysmal. And that's something. Again, even if you want to put too much, a lot of stock in the Cleveland era, if you want to do that, similar way too. In 5 seasons, only had one winning season and got to the playoffs once. After that, it's abysmal. It's the same thing too. If again, I'm going to take away the 2008 season. It's basically identical, really. 5 seasons, 1 playoff berth, Everything else is mediocre. Like it is. Best season he had, Cleveland was 11-5. Best season he had with New England was 10-7, and there's 7-9, 8-9, 7-9, 7-9, and you have awful 5-11s back to back. Or he was last year in Cleveland and his first year in New England. So it definitely is something where he's getting exposed. Where maybe he isn't the genius that he is, but at the same time too, every coach would kind of be that same way if they didn't have an elite quarterback. And unfortunately, they didn't have the elite quarterback. But also a counter argument to that as well is Belichick drafted a quarterback. And we know he has power. He's the one that makes the decisions, or definitely has a big influence in decisions making. For the next franchise quarterback, and only had Cam Newton in between for 2020, but really the next franchise quarterback, the next quarterback to really take over for Tom Brady was Mac Jones. He decided, no, this is going to be the next guy. He could have had anyone else. He could have traded up. He could have picked up, he could have had other options. He decided to say, no, Mac Jones is it. With obviously his best friend, Nick Saban from Alabama, probably talked him into it, how it worked out, but he said, no, Mac Jones is my quarterback. I don't want to put all the blame on Mac Jones because I also do believe he was failed as a quarterback, but I also do believe that he isn't that great of a quarterback. I think at most he's average at best, but also too, I don't think Belichick did him any favors. We look at offensively, some of the offensive coaches he's had, at least for one of the years, he didn't do him any favors. But also at the same time too, I think Mac Jones was just very limited because he tried to take the mold of Brady and put on Mac Jones, an unathletic quarterback, not mobile, decent arm, but nothing too crazy. It's basically the same mold physically as Tom Brady, but he's not Brady because he just doesn't have the mindset, the knowledge, and everything. What people say, the clutch gene, how people say. But I think I don't think he's had it mentally where he could just be able to overcome that and figure out ways and kind of just pick defenses apart. He didn't have that. He didn't have a lot of help, but there was nothing special about Mac Jones, and this is the quarterback that he picked. And he said, "This is my franchise guy," and I think teams are looking at it as well and saying that we can't trust him. We can't. I think and that's why he might have to wait for a team that already has an established elite quarterback because I don't think teams want to trust him. Trying to draft one. Now, if he was with New England this year, still in this draft, having third overall pick they have, fourth overall pick, I think third. You still have one of the top picks yet. I mean, it might be Daniels from LSU. Who knows how the draft may fall? It might be Drake May. Who knows how the draft falls from now till draft night? So maybe it would have been easier because there's just a more plethora of selection being such higher in the draft as opposed to they were in 2020 in the 2021 draft. And this kind of ties into I kind of bled into the second part too. Is just the power. And it's basically, kind of saying the same thing, too, for the GM role, just deciding to pick the players. You also know another bad one, too, is just even with Brady as well. In 2019, his final year there, for in that draft, or that draft entering the 2019 season, first-round pick N'Keal Henry, when he could have had Deebo Samuel, DK Metcalf, A.J. Brown. I know a lot of other teams passed up on him, but it's a huge miss. And we see how N'Keal Henry's worked out. It hasn't. And, I mean, a lot of his other picks has just been okay. I mean, some have panned out. Strange, the offensive lineman, yes. One of the years they have a first-round pick. I think Duggar, if I have that right, the safety they have also played well, but nothing elite. I mean, the only best one he's had is probably Gonzalez, who looked phenomenal. Unfortunately, he tore his ACL, but overall, just nothing great, especially offensively. Help for Tom Brady, nothing too crazy. Again, 2018 win, I think the offensive lineman, also Sony Michel, when he could have had Nick Chubb. I think there was another running back that they passed, another running back in that draft class they could have passed up on, but they picked Sony Michel, and overall, really didn't do anything. He definitely had his best year, his rookie year, and helped them win the Super Bowl. That's great. Paid for it, but never really paying out to be anything. And it just the drafting is bad. There was, I think, one year also too. I think if I have it right as well for 2022. Where he drafted 2 tight ends in the draft, and they both didn't even pan out, and that's where he went out and got the big money. I want to say maybe 2021 as well. Got Hunter Henry this past offseason. Got Mike Gesicki, Ezekiel Elliott, and stuff like that. Juju Smith-Schuster, but these just weren't just good decisions. It just wasn't enough, especially in the AFC East when you have the Bills with Stephon Diggs, Josh Allen, James Cook, Gabe Davis, Dalton Kincaid. You look at Miami Dolphins, Tyreek Hill, Raheem Mostert, David A-Chain, Jalen Waddle. You see these offenses, they have at least one elite playmaker and good to great pieces around, after that. The Jets also, too, with, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Allen Lazard, however you think about him. He did awful this year, this year, but probably would have done better if Aaron Rodgers was still there. James Cook, again, kind of got screwed over because of, I think, the Aaron Rodgers injury as well, but they had names on that roster. For the Patriots, the best one was Ramondre Stevenson, the running back. Outside that, at least for the weapon-wise, your number one wide receiver is what? Juju Smith-Schuster? You can't compete with that, not just in the division alone, but just in the conference. In any game, really. It just didn't work out. And that's another thing, too, is just the power role. Another thing, too, is just the staff. Again, going back to 2022, when he had Matt Patricia calling plays, him and Joe Judge calling plays, it was awful. It was a horrible decision to begin with. But he decided to do it, and it ruined Mac Jones, I think. Now, of course, he hired Bill O'Brien for this season. Things got a little bit better. I don't know for statistically how much better it really got, but definitely an improvement of getting someone who's an actual offensive coordinator as opposed to defensive coordinator calling offensive plays, and having Joe Judge, a special teams coach, also helping with that as well. So another thing too is just the staff, where he's not going to go out there and he's not going to get names. Or go outside and get names he's not familiar with. He's gonna pick people that is in their circle. Obviously, the biggest one is probably Josh McDaniels and Patricia, who he'd let go, Joe Judge, Bill O'Brien. He's gonna get names that he recognizes. He's not gonna go out there and take a gamble on a Joe Brady that some people are interviewing for, or who else you want to name. And that's the problem, is he's gonna bring the same problems from New England with them wherever he goes. He's going to bring familiar faces with them. It's not going to work out. And again, going back to just the power struggle of, I think another thing too is just the GM role, where maybe the Falcons, a deal breaker potentially was just that he wants too much power. What, I don't know that for sure for not. It's 100%. That's not me saying that's, cool hard facts, but we know how he is. He wants to control everything. He wants to have that power. I definitely think he has a big influence on the GM role of deciding who gets drafted and not, and who gets signed. I think that maybe the Falcons or for other teams just look at that and go, well, you have to kind of limit your power. You kind of have to let someone else do their job. You have some input in it, but you have to let the GM do his job. And I think this is something that Belichick didn't want to do, because that's just all he knows. That's all he's done in New England. And I think it's just very tough for him to let that go. I do. And that kind of just sums up to me the three biggest points is just his age, his record without Brady, and just the power struggle with them. I think those three alone, I think, are the biggest reasons why he didn't get the Falcons job, and also just having no interest from other teams elsewhere. And what we said back for the Ian Rappaport tweet, that he could potentially sit out and wait for opportunities in 2025. Now, I think 2025 could be better because of just teams that might open up. Dallas Cowboys, but I think that's kind of out the window because of just I can't see him working with Jerry Jones, but that could be a spot that opens up if Mike McCarthy can't do his job again and they're bounced out of the wild card divisional round. That could be a spot. Another one too, I think, is Buffalo. It felt like at one point in the season it did look like that when they were 6-6. It could be a possibility. They bounced back, got to the divisional round. Unfortunately, came up short in that one against the Chiefs again. That could be a spot too. If that happens again in 2024, that might be a spot that could be potentially opened up for Buffalo. And would he be open to coming to a rival and kind of just giving it to Robert Kraft and the Patriots? Maybe. I mean, definitely. You have Josh Allen, so you don't have to worry about the quarterback position whatsoever. You have one of the best quarterbacks in the league. That could be a spot. Going back to Dallas, Dak Prescott, middle of the road at times, is up and down, but not a horrible quarterback. Another one too is the Eagles. Another one that people thought that Nick Sirianni could have been fired after, depending on how he did in the playoffs, and got bounced out of the wild card. Looks like he's keeping his job for now. Both coordinators, I think, got fired there. Especially, I know officially the offense coordinator got fired there. But let's see if he has another down season and things start getting worse. That might be a team that they might have a head coach vacancy. Another one too is Jacksonville. Very disappointing season this year. They're off to an 8-3 start, and they just fell apart. At one point, they were one of the top seeds. I think they were 2 or 3 at one point seeding for the AFC, and it fell apart. For whatever reason. So if they have another similar season like they do next year, similar to this year, Doug Peterson's job may be in question for this. If you go back to his first year there, it was off to a rocky start. It wasn't until they started to really catch fire late in the season where they kind of saved their season, got in the playoffs in the final week, and kind of made a good run where they came back down from 27-0 or 27-7 and kind of gave the Chiefs a good fight. This year was very disappointing. So again, if it plays out the same way next year, not saying he's going to get fired, but I think there might at least be discussions of maybe looking elsewhere. And there's also the question too about Trevor Lawrence, but we're not going to be getting into that as well. The other two, I think, is just the Bears and Giants. Bears, it looked like that they might fire their coach this year. Got to bring if I can pull up his name quickly for Chicago. Matt Bearfloss. If I probably butchered that, I apologize. But for their coach, again, I mean, we've seen this before. Which going back to last time they drafted a rookie quarterback. Trubisky, after his rookie year, got a new coach. I mean, I won't be surprised, too, where it looks like all signs are mostly pointing to them drafting Caleb Williams and moving off of Justin Fields. That could be a spot that could potentially open up. And then finally, the Giants. Again, not a great season for Brian Daboll. Unfortunately, they had a ton of injuries, but if they have another similar season next year as they did this year, that could be a spot as well. But that's kind of my summer. Even that too. Sorry, just one more point. Even that too, it just makes it worse because again, the age. He'll be 73. Even if he gets hired before that, he'll be 73 going into the season. And just the question marks of a record, depending on where he goes for the quarterback situation, the record comes into question. And mostly too, just the power struggle. Is he going to take over and want a huge influence on the GM and the trades, the signings, the drafting, and so forth? So even that, I think it makes it even worse, even if he sits out next year, because it amps things up even worse as it is now. If that is the case. But that's kind of my thoughts on the whole Bill Belichick situation. Again, why he did not get the Falcons job and why no other teams are interested in him. That's kind of that's just my thoughts on it. Is this all concrete, 100%? No, these are just my taking a step back and just seeing everything of my 3 reasons why I don't think he was got much interest as he should have, at least if you look at a resume perspective. But, I mean, we'll see. Got 2 more spots left. Commanders and Seahawks are available. We'll see if he gets it in the next coming weeks.